show, and we are very, very proud to celebrate your 50 years. So, welcome Mr. Julio Perez. One applause, please.
Good afternoon to everybody. I want to thank in a special way to Amcham and Price Waterhouse that without his help we cannot be here. Okay? And we are happy to have birthday 50 years. It's a very important occasion for our guild like us to be in this city with all of you. We're going to talk about the 5 pillars of the Peruvian economic stability from the private sector view. Okay? So, okay.
Aquí, there. Sí, solamente, ¿qué pasa si tú me
Okay. Minister Contreras talked about the pillars. Also, we are in the same way. The institutional framework, the monetary policy, and the fiscal policy are 3 fundamental pillars for the Peruvian economic stability. The first one, the institutional framework. Our political constitution is the most adequate framework for business that guarantee the security of private sector. Laws like non-traditional law and employment promotion law contribute to the development of the exporter sector. These laws were very important for the growth of our export. Number 2, the monetary policy. Economy policy independence of the Central Reserve Bank of Peru. As Alex says, the best Central Reserve Bank of the world. We are very proud of our central bank. And he makes responsible decision of monetary policy that control inflation and the strength volatility of exchange rate. This is very, very important for us. All these decisions help to keep our macroeconomic indicators under control. Number 3, fiscal policy. No. Our Ministry of Economy has maintained a strategic management of public debt according to the necessities. For example, this ratio, public debt between GDP ratio, we are in 34%. For example, European Union says that below 60% is okay, so we're in 34, more than good. And also the creation of significant national plans to regulate the national economic and productive activity. For the people that doesn't know exactly what means punche, no? Punche is this. This is punch. The minister didn't explain what but punch is that. So this is very good plan for all the exporters. Okay. The number 4 pillar, trade openness, has contributed to the success of the Peruvian export performance. We have to see the historical evolution of our exports. Last year we were in 63.4 billion. This was a record, no? But the most important is the growth of the non-traditional exports. You can see in the down part. The jobs, very importantly, the exportation create formal jobs. 4.1 million jobs was created by the exports. Traditional 1.6 and non-traditional almost 5 million jobs. So this is very important. The non-traditional sector is the sector of all the export that create more jobs, more qualified jobs, and more formal jobs. The forecast for the growth rate for the next year is 2.8%. Let's see what the minister if it's okay or not, Julio. And this is very important. Countries with the highest number of trade agreements. As you can see, Peru has 22 free trade agreements signed. So this helps a lot to create all this environment and the growth of the exports. And exporting stuff. Peru is among the most important origin of different products, not only agriculture, but also in other sectors. We are number one, lead ores, fish meal, blueberries, fresh grapes, asparagus, color lace. This is very important to know. Peru, the shore of Peru is a desert, completely desert. So this is a miracle that we can bring to the world all these kind of products. Number two, copper, zinc, processed squid, canned asparagus. And number three in the world, fresh or dried avocados, calcium phosphate, and silver rose. And number four, frozen trout fillet and boric. We have more products among the 10 best positions in the world. This chart is very interesting. We show here the 10 top destination countries for Peru export. As you can see, our main destination is China, but this is our main destination for the Peruvian exporter that wants to push the non-traditional export is United States, this country. This country received, we export to this country $8.6 billion. That's a share of 13.6%. Then we come with number three, Japan, 3 billion, South Korea, 2.7 billions, Canada, 2.7 also. 6 is India, and this is from the top 10 exporters, this is the only country that we have not signed a free trade agreement, no? You have to point out this. But if we continue from the 10 top destinations, 90% of our exporters, goes to all these countries, 90%. So the free trade agreements are very, very important for our economy and for our country. We talk about resilient, no? The minister mentioned the word resilient, and we are a resilient country. Resilient and creative Peruvian entrepreneurship with high adaptability and opportunities. We were growing in firms exporting to the world. 2000 year, you can see 3,600 companies. But now in 2022, more than 8,000 firms export to the world. 96% of the total value was exported by Peruvian large firms. But we have small and medium companies. 3,700 firms have exported one product only in 2022, and 4,600 firms have exported to one destination only. So here we have to make a big job with the government, no? We need more Punche Peru, probably Punche Exportador. Minister, we have to talk about this. Because we have to support the small firms, no? Because if I export only one product, or we export to only one country, the firms need help to go to other destinations. Characteristics of these companies, of the Peruvian company: resilience against economic and climate shocks, You can see the Cyclone Jaguar and others. We go ahead. Creative development in Peruvian firms, fast adaptability to difficult situations, and ready for taking advantage from different opportunities around the world. We have challenges, two main challenges. Generation of value added in the productive sector. We need more companies that allow us to generate more formal jobs. That's important. The value added products provide us those opportunities. And the other challenge is the insertion in regional and global value chains in search of more business opportunities. And almost to finish, an enormous export potential in some Peruvian sectors. The minister mentioned some of them, but the aquaculture, no, has a promotion law that this law will allow this sector to export much more. We are exporting in aquaculture around $400 million, but Chile and Ecuador are exporting billions. No, we are exporting hundreds. We can do that. Number two, forestry. 60% of Peru's territory is covered by forests. How is it possible that we export only hundreds of dollars? Other countries export billions of dollars. So, for example, Peru against Chile, our territory is 73.3 billion and Chile 17, and Peru 4 times larger than Chile. No? Peru export much less. So we have to work here a lot. And a sector that is not so visible, the high value manufacturing. No? Some subsectors with potential. The chemical, machinery we produce. I was in those companies. Machinery for big mining companies. We export to Canada, to some countries in Africa. It's amazing what I saw. No? It's a machine very specialized for mining and pharmaceutical. Motor service. That is a sector that we forgot many times, but we have services, the sector of services, not products. Young population will open opportunities for Peruvian motor services. Software developing, finances, services, creative industries, legal consulting. So we have much more opportunities in Peru, our country. And to finish, conclusion. The Peruvian economy has been stable and resilient to different economic shocks due to its 5 pillars: institutional framework, monetary policy, fiscal policy, trade openness, very important, and the Peruvian entrepreneurship. The institutional framework based on the political constitution and laws that contribute with the private sector development. The monetary policy guided by the independent Peruvian Central Bank and the responsible fiscal policy are well known and recognized as an example in all the world. The trade openness with our 22 free trade agreements signed has contributed with a significant evolution and success of the exporting sector. These results were explained by the Peruvian products that are famous around the world, and we saw in the previous picture. Over the last year, the Peruvian firms developed important characteristics such as resilience, creativeness, adaptability, and high disposition for taking opportunities. These particular traits will be the basis for ensuring an adequate short, medium, and long-term economic growth and development of Peru. In sum, Peru has all the capabilities to continue with the improvement of the economic situation and their participation and insertion in the international markets through trade. And last statement, never else public sector and private sector has had to go different ways. Private sector and public sector must work together, and from the exportation, from addicts, we are together with the public sector, and we must work for the development of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perez. Our next speaker is Mr. Orlando Marchesi. He is the country senior partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers Peru and AMCHA board member. Welcome, Mr. Marchesi.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank you everyone for coming here to our office. We are glad that we can host this important event, and especially for me to share today the podium with such distinguished government officials and Julio, Alex, and the other speakers. So that's very important. So what we've heard so far, we've heard that Peruvian economy is very solid, and that it's not only the economy that sustains private investment, but it's also the Peruvian legislation, especially the constitution, which guarantees foreign national investors that we are a serious factor, and especially in the part of the world where we are, in South America. Not always the rules tend to be stable. Our constitution dates from 1993, and I believe the most important guarantees that we have are the ones that I'm listed here. First of all, we have a social market economy. Private initiative is free. Business activities receive the same legal treatment the public wants. And there's free competition. The state facilitates and oversees free competition, and no law or arrangement may authorize or establish monopolies. There are obviously in contractual liberties also in our country. The government cannot intervene in contracts between private parties. We promote national and foreign investment and provide equal treatment to each. And one important thing also is the possession and free disposition of foreign currency. So in Peru, if you invest in Peru and you decide, let's say in a shareholders meeting in the afternoon, that you want to distribute your dividends, by the end of the day you are free to do so just with a transfer on your bank account. There's no central bank authorizations as in other countries. So other important consideration for foreign investment is the tax stability agreements. Back in the early 90s, when we were trying to promote investment in Peru, obviously one of the main worries of investors is the tax regime and changes that occur very often in Latin America. So what we came up with is the tax stability agreements. We have generally three regimes. The general regime is for 10 years, and it provides stability on income tax, and also on certain fixed-term contracts. The mining regime, which is good for 10, 12, or 15 years, depending on the amount of investment, and also for the oil and gas companies, and the stability is for the length of the license agreement, which is normally 30 years. Then we also have an early recovery of VAT, which is very important for huge investments, especially those in the mining industry, for example. So any huge project that needs a couple of years for maturity can apply for this regime and get the early recovery of VAT, which is 18% in Peru, so it's a huge burden if you would have to wait until your project starts making profits to recover the VAT. We provide the foreign tax credit. We are allowed under our regime, if you are a Peruvian company operating abroad, we do have now the indirect credit, which means that you can use as a credit against Peruvian income tax, the income tax paid by your foreign company abroad. We have a special deduction regime for projects related to scientific research, which allows you up to 140% deduction of the expense, provided you certain requirements are met. And also, we have an investment promotion regime for the Amazon region with a very low tax rate of 10%. And we have double taxation agreements with a few countries, not as much as we would like, but these are the ones that we have the agreements now, and obviously looking into the future, there's possibility of signing more agreements, but basically what we try to offset a lack of agreements with very low taxation rates on dividends. Our dividend rate is 5%, for example. So normally in the other countries it is the 5% withholding tax is credible. In regard to the trade agreements and friendly investment environment, since '91, Peru has signed 38 bilateral investment agreements with different countries, and since 2009, 12 investment chapters into free trade agreements, one of which is with the US. Peru participates also in the investment committee of the Organization of Economic Cooperation, the OECD. It promotes the implementation of the guidelines for multinational enterprises. We have a network of investment agreements, and we are a member of the ICSID, which for Spanish is the CID, and we know sometimes there are disputes between governments and private parties, but we have the mechanisms for the private parties to go and file the claims, and I will comment a little bit on that later. Peru has also signed 9 agreements to avoid double taxation, as I just said, Brazil, Chile, Canada, Portugal, Korea, Japan, Mexico, and Switzerland. And also the Andean community, which is Colombia, Bolivia, and Ecuador. And about the international investment policy, this is from the Ministry of Economy and Finance webpage. The investment policy in Peru is based on creation of a stable legal framework that promotes the growth of national and foreign investment. And this is part of the framework that the Ministry of Economy and Finance came up with about 30 years ago with investment and the investment protection stability agreements, and signing of international investment agreements to complement national legislation. So the idea is to provide investors with guarantees of equal treatment, which is very important, and also consolidate the legal framework for guarantees and to protect both investments and investors, creating an appropriate, stable, and predictable climate, which is very important for investment. So the idea is fair and equitable treatment, the clause that we have in these investment agreements, which protects against expropriation, which implies both direct expropriation, which is taking away of the right of ownership, of dominion over property, and indirect expropriation also, which involves the act or set of acts on the part of one of the contracting parties aimed at depriving or substantially affecting property right that was subject matter of investment. And these guarantees are enforceable, as I'll comment later on. And under investment arbitration, this is the important part of all the agreements that the Peruvian government signs. So investment protection agreements establish the possibility of resorting to arbitration under a neutral arbitration forum to settle disputes. And this has proven over time that it has worked very well, because certain, as we will see at the end, certain companies have been able to uphold their rights disputes with the Peruvian government. Bilateral investment treaties, we have signed these with these countries, and we will probably continue to do so more in the future. And these are a few cases of disputes that over the years the Peruvian government has had with private investors. The first one is a case that actually was ruled in favor of the Peruvian government. The dispute was about different treatment, or the company saw that it received a different treatment from other transmission companies. But the other two cases are interesting cases. There was a lot of obviously huge amounts involved, but the dispute here was over benefit that we had in the 90s, a tax benefit that allowed you to revalue your assets, merge and use that higher revaluation as an expense. And it was challenged in the year 2000 by the tax administration, saying that that was not covered under the stability agreements. But in both cases, in arbitration, both companies were able to obtain a resolution in their favor. And the last one is a case of a mining company which had its authorization revoked a few years ago, and they got at the end of the day a ruling in their favor, indemnifying them and ordering the Peruvian government to give them again the authorizations that it had taken from them. So, in general terms, the message that I would like to leave with you is that Peru is a stable country. It has been managing its economy very responsible over the last 30 years. It has a legal framework under its constitution, which is very friendly for the investor, but it's not what we call in Peru, how could you say this? That we say letra muerta, right? Which means it's just the wording, but doesn't mean anything. It does mean for us. It's in our constitution, and we in the business community and also in the government take very seriously what we write as law. So thank you very much for everyone being here, for those investors interested in investing in Peru. And as it has been said here, I think it's very important for the government representatives and also people from the private sector like me to send a clear message for investors that we are working together trying to improve conditions in the country for our people, and attracting foreign investment is critical for me. So thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marquez. We have at this point 4 speakers from Peru, and we are